Hi, I'm Sue Bockelman, the owner of the Plant Pro in Post Falls, Idaho. I have a degree in landscape horticulture from Colorado State University, and I've been playing in the dirt, working in the horticulture field for over 40 years. I'm used to our strange weather and bad soil, and I hope this will help you overcome some of the issues in dealing with those things so that you can grow happier and healthier plants. Had a lot of fun with trying to figure out how to keep my plants happy and healthy. And one of the things I found is plants need food. Unfortunately, here in North Idaho, our soils are very, very lacking in nutrients, mainly because we're lacking in organic matter, which helps hold nutrients and also provides some nutrients. So you're going to need to fertilize your plants. I'm here to help you figure out what to use, when, and how. First, what do those numbers on the fertilizer bag mean? Quite confusing till you know the basics. The numbers represent the percentage by weight of that nutrient. So a 50-pound bag of 16-16-16 fertilizer would have about 8 pounds of nitrogen, 8 pounds of phosphorus, and 8 pounds of potassium. You can do that math for any of them. So the three numbers on the bag stand for nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium. Those are the three nutrients that plants need in the greatest amount. Nitrogen being the thing that all plants need the most. Nitrogen is for green top growth. So anything you're growing that you're trying to get a lot of green leaves, and that can include shade trees, evergreen trees, and your lawn, you're going to want to pick a fertilizer that the first number is higher than the other two numbers. Unfortunately, with a lot of lawn foods, they neglect the other two numbers, and those are important. The middle number is phosphorus. Phosphorus promotes roots, fruits, and flowers. So when you're first planting things, including a lawn, or you're trying to make things happier and healthier and you want to get better root growth, you need to utilize a fertilizer that the middle number is either present or higher than the other two. Anything that you're trying to grow flowers or fruit, you definitely need to make sure you have enough phosphorus to promote that growth. The third number is potassium. Potassium also promotes flowering. Plus, it helps with stress resistance. It's a component of cell walls, so it helps make the plant stronger and better able to withstand drought, insect attack, disease attack, overwatering, anything that would stress out a new plant. So you do want to make sure you have potassium. One thing you can do is do a quickie soil test. They sell these kits all over the place. Or you can get a professional soil test done. I recommend Stukenholtz Labs just because it's more user-friendly, and they'll tell you what you need to add to your soil to get the numbers in the right balance. There are 11 more nutrients that our soils need and our plants need to grow. Most of them are either naturally occurring in our soils or they're a component of the other nutrients. There are two that tend to be lacking in our North Idaho soils, one of which is iron. And you can buy products like this iron This one also has a soil acidifier with it. There's a product called Ironite. Great products for adding iron to your yard. There's also a liquid form of that. The other thing, our soils tend to be more alkaline, which also reflects in the fact that they're lacking in sulfur. So you can get things like aluminum sulfate, or it'll just be called soil sulfur, or you can fertilize with a blend made for acid-loving plants. Those are going to have extra sulfur in it. So, if I'm growing a crop of lettuce, can I use my lawn food on my lettuce crop? Yes, you can. You're trying to get green top growth. I'm growing a rose bush. Can I put that extra bit of tomato food on it? Why not? The numbers on here is a 4-6-3. It's got that phosphorus for flowering and fruiting. Tomatoes a fruit. A rose is a flower. This is going to take care of both of them. So don't be fooled thinking you've got to buy rose food and vegetable food and an all-purpose. Look at those three numbers. See what you're trying to grow and plan accordingly. As far as how to put it down, a lot of methods. Personally, I do tend to be a bit of a lazy gardener, so I like the granules. It's just going to be granule. Scatter it around your garden. Now, when you're fertilizing shrubs and trees, your fertilizer needs to get put out at the drip line. That basically is the spread of your branches. You don't need to put fertilizer right at the trunk of a tree because there's no feeder roots to take it up around my trunk. My feeder roots are out here at my drip line at the end of my branches. So you want to make a donut or a ring around your trees and shrubs out at the edge of the branches. That's where the roots are going to be to take up those nutrients. And I like to just spread a granule. You can also use a liquid. A lot of good ones out there. This one's a 644 though. So great for your shade trees, maybe your evergreens. But when you want to go with flowering, you might want a big bloom for flowers because it's going to be there. But liquids are great. The other way you can put down fertilizers are with the solubles. This is a Miracle-Gro type product. I'm sure you all know the name. And I'm sure you've seen it. It's just a powder you mix with water and then pour it on like a liquid. There is now an organic soluble on the market, which is wonderful. I do prefer using all organic fertilizers, and I'll give you my why. If you think about it, I mentioned plants need a total of 14 nutrients to grow well. That means those 14 nutrients are also in the plant tissues. So a lot of these organic fertilizers, you start reading through the ingredients list and you're going to see things like kelp meal and earthworm castings, bat guano, forest humus, composted forest products, things made from plants and from animal poop that contain all of those micronutrients that the plants need to grow well. Plus, it adds a little bit of organic matter to the soil. So consider going organic with your fertilizers just to give your plants a more well-rounded. That's my suggestion. You don't have to follow it. There are other products on the market a lot of people like. This is Osmocote. I'm sure you've all seen it. What they've done, one problem with most of your chemical fertilizers, they move very quickly through the soil. They get used and used up very quickly. So you have to keep reapplying them. They came up with Osmocote. Basically, they're coated fertilizer pellets that the coating dissolves slowly so the fertilizer will last over a longer period of time. Your organic fertilizers naturally break down slower and feed over a longer period of time. Another way to apply fertilizer is with spikes. I'm sure you've all seen these little guys. These are good for pots, but look at the numbers. My indoor plant one is a 6-12-6. Great for flowering. I don't know how many people have success with flowering houseplants. Whereas my flowering plant one is a 10-10-4. It would help with flowering, but I'd rather see the middle number higher. But you can do those in pots. But I'm sure you've all seen the stakes like this. You pound them in the ground around the tree, hopefully at the drip line. But fertilizer doesn't move sideways, it moves down. So what happens is you get pockets of fertilizer and don't have it well spread around the tree. The other problem, because our soils tend to not have much organic matter, we don't have a lot of soil microbes to break this up. I've dug these up 2 and 3 years later almost intact. Means you're not fertilizing your plant. So I highly recommend you not go the spikes. Go with a granular or a liquid to get it spread out so the whole root zone can use it. As far as how often and when to fertilize, everything will benefit from getting fertilizer in the spring. When it's starting to green up, put on its first flowers, it's a great time to give everything a feeding with the nutrients they need. Things in pots, you may need to be fertilizing monthly or a couple times during the season. Vegetables need a lot of fertilizer, a lot of nutrients. Make sure you're not depriving them by, oh, I'm tired in July and August, I don't want to fertilize anymore. That's when they're the hungriest. So make sure your vegetables you're getting fed all season. Trees and shrubs, once in the spring is usually enough. Blooming trees and shrubs and your perennial garden, they all get a feeding of something like triple superphosphate or bone meal, not blood meal, but bone meal. Those are phosphorus sources. Remember I said that's for roots and for flowers. One thing about phosphorus, it tends to move slowly in the soil, no matter what source you get it from. By putting on some phosphorus in the fall and letting it work through the soil with our freeze-thaw, wet-dry cycles, it gets it down so the roots can take it up the next spring and really put on a splash of color for you that next growing season. Your lawn. A lot of people get a little crazy fertilizing their lawns. Yes, we all want a green lawn. We don't need the 5 and 6 fertilizings that some of the lawn care companies want to do. My lawn gets all organic fertilizer. It gets one feeding in the early spring, late March to early April. If I don't get around to it, it might be into May, but one good spring feeding, and then a fall feeding sometime in September with a winterizer. Part of the reason for that, and part of the reason why you want to be careful putting fertilizer on your lawn in the summer, our grass are what are called cool season grasses, and they actually go partly dormant in the summer. By putting a lot of fast-acting nitrogen on your lawn in July, you're going to try to push top growth when the lawn's trying to sleep. And I don't know about you, but I don't like it when my alarm clock goes off. And that's what you're doing, putting heavy concentrations of nitrogen on in the middle of the summer. So 2, maybe 3 feedings a year is what your lawn likes best. Once can be as early as March, a second could be late May, and then September. Make sure you read your fertilizer labels. They're going to tell you how much. I can't tell you that because every fertilizer is a little bit different. If you're using organics, you can go heavy. They don't burn. If you're using a chemical fertilizer, be very careful with nitrogen. It can burn, so don't bother going heavy if you're doing a chemical fertilizer. And the other thing with fertilizers is make sure you water them in well. The leaves of the plants, if you've got fertilizer residue on them, it can burn, but also the leaves are not going to take up those nutrients. All these great new spray-on fertilizers, you still got to get those nutrients to the roots. So when you fertilize, make sure you water it in well within 48 hours. So I like to get out right before a rain and we're good to go. Hopefully this has helped demystify a little bit about the fertilizer and using it in your yard to get the prettiest plants you can. If you have further questions or concerns, feel free to contact me. And I do want to thank Stacy from Van Hoff's Garden Center for our great products to show you. Thank you.